Well, here's a story you probably haven't heard. The destruction left by the war in Ukraine could last up to 600 years. And this destruction is quietly choking our planet and our bodies to death. New research shows that an unbelievable amount of battlefield drones are leaving behind more than just shells and smoke. They're dumping so much plastic, so toxic, could last for 6 centuries. Researchers say these discarded 41-kilometer fiber optic lines used for drone communications are littering forests, fields in Ukraine, and basically turning war zones into microplastic cemeteries. And also, RFK Jr. just came out with some bombshell new information about these microplastics in our bodies. So what does this mean for our bodies? Kim Bright is the founder of Brightcore Nutrition. She's been battling the effects of microplastics for decades, long before MAHA even existed. Whenever I see stories about microplastics, I always think of Kim. So Kim, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me back. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing that you think of me when you think of microplastics.
Well, often people say, well, and I know that's not our job as journalists here on the show. It's like to always offer solutions. People are like, well, yes, this is all so bad, massive amounts of illegal immigration, but what's the solution? And as journalists, we're covering the stories. But in this situation, like, you have obviously spent your life trying to find solutions for this. So that's why I think of you in this way. I mean, but when you see a story like this Ukraine war, we always see the dead, the Ukrainian dead, the Russian dead, and just how devastating this is on that level, amputees and all of this. But to see something that is kind of hidden under the surface, something that we're not even talking about, is really devastating. But 600 years, what did you think when you saw this?
Well, to me, it's just so impactful, because to me, when you think about these drones, 80% of what they're using are drones. And each of these drones have those optic cables, those fiber optic cables attached to them. And the length of those fiber cables can be up to, I wrote it down, 134,515 feet long. Then they get abandoned in the field. So the bats get wrapped up in it. The mammals get wrapped up in it. All this wildlife is suffering from our stupidity with war. And then the plastics leaching into the soil. So the toxic aftermath of these war zones are going to have significant global impact on our health, Clayton, and on the health of the animals and the birds. And every time, you know this, but just to remind people out there, every time fuel is burned, a missile's launched, a bomb's detonated, these microplastics are released into the atmosphere. And these microplastics are spread throughout the upper atmosphere, and which means they're spread globally and they affect all of us. And so we get to inhale microplastics with every single breath we take. And now it's proven microplastics are found in 94% of the US tap water, bottled water worldwide too, included in that. And our meat, seafood, and other protein sources, 88% of it contains microplastics.
I mean, I guess that's the thing when we think about the Ukraine war. For a lot of people, it's over there. It doesn't really affect us. But of course, we know what's happening through the water sources, through the air. It doesn't really matter that it's in Ukraine. It doesn't really matter. It's happening to all of us, and we're all seeing this. I wanted to play this News Nation report. I found this pretty stunning about this new research and what they're finding in our bodies. Watch.
White ones, we've got clear ones.
Tons of microplastics wash ashore all over the world every day. And now for the first time, scientists in the Netherlands have detected microplastic pollution in human blood.
All the microplastics and nanoplastics we are exposed to, we inhale and we ingest, that actually, there's so much plastic that it can even enter our bloodstream.
The Dutch study on blood samples from healthy adults detected tiny plastic particles in 80% of people.
So Kim, there at the end, he said 80% of us. It's in 80% of our bodies. And you think to yourself, I'm not ingesting plastic. How is this getting into my body? 80% of us though have it?
Yes, indeed. And it's so terrible because the clothes you're wearing, think about that. They think it's a great thing to be recycling plastics, making shoes out of them, making clothes. So when you're wearing polyester clothes or recycled plastic clothes, your body, your entire body, your skin is your largest organ, is absorbing microplastics. If you're cooking in a microwave with the plastic containers, if you're anything you're doing these days, just about, you're eating food that's grown in soil that is just inundated with microplastics or watered with microplastic water. It's everywhere. And do you know that humans now ingest 6 times more microplastics than they did in 1990, Clayton? So trust me, you've got microplastics in your arteries, you've got it everywhere. And you know, the whole thing is you're 4 to 5 times more likely to die from heart attack or stroke if microplastics are discovered in your arteries or your veins. So this is just terrible.
And that, yeah, looking at that new study about microplastics being linked to heart attack and stroke and even death, that they're finding these particles now lodged in key blood vessels. You're thinking like, I mean, how large are these things? They're in there, they're causing strokes, like a piece breaks off and goes to your brain and causes a stroke.
Well, they're microplastics, but then they're also nanoplastics. Nanoplastics are so small you can't even see they're there. And besides these microplastics, Clayton, they have jagged edges. They're all different, forms. And so they go everywhere. And yes, they go up to our brain. And they go to our brain and they go to our other organs that are fatty, like our liver, our kidneys. And they lodge there, and they lodge in the fat cells. So they're everywhere and in our blood.
I mean, even according to this Scientific American study, I was showing this to my wife. I said, they found microplastics in this study everywhere they looked, in oceans, in shellfish, in breast milk, drinking water, in wafting in the air, they say in the study, and falling with the rain. So like it's unavoidable everywhere you go. And that's, I guess, why RFK Jr. has stoked quite a bit of fervor lately, because he's pointing out a number of the research, like why is there this huge drop in sperm count for men? And he thinks he has the answer. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, again, they found out that the people that were working, especially men in these factories, these textile factories, they were exposed to all of this microplastic. And so they had lower sperm count. They had reproductive abilities were cut down. And they are showing that sperm count and testosterone levels are lower than any other time in history. And guess what? Young men are 50% lower in testosterone and sperm count than a 65-year-old man right now. And these microplastics, I'm telling you, they're doing so much harm. To that alone, that is devastating to our country. To have the inability to reproduce humans, but they're altering our DNA too. They're altering our DNA, causing DNA damage, changing the gene expression. They're interfering with DNA repair mechanisms, Clayton. And it's, this is concerning because when you start messing around with DNA, this is a known risk factor for things like cancer. So, and again, microplastics can cross now that blood-brain barrier, which leads to early onset dementia.
And we start with a new study on the impact of microplastics, which found human brains contained as much plastic as a plastic spoon, which is up 50% from 2016.
What we're finding is in the brains of people who have dementia, there's actually higher amounts of microplastics. So essentially, these microplastics, or these tiny little particles of plastics, are crossing the blood-brain barrier, and they're depositing into our brain. And they're being correlated with increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases like dementia, possibly linked to autism and other things that affect the brain. There's also evidence showing increased risk of stroke, and increase inflammation overall. So I have always said, listen, there's no way to avoid microplastics entirely unless you're going to live in a bubble. And by the way, that bubble couldn't be a plastic bubble. It'd have to be a glass bubble.
This is devastating on a number of levels, not just like the stroke and the heart attack and all of the other things we're talking about, the cancers, Alzheimer's, but also the birth gap problem. In the United States, we're just not producing enough babies as it is. Japan has one of the worst in the world. I mean, just, a lot of old people with no children to take care of them in hospitals and dying off. Like we don't
what
have
are we down
enough
to, like
babies.
1.4 or 1.6 per person in America? And you've got to be like, what, 2.2 to just stay even with everything. So we're way, way below that. And of course, Japan's way below that.
So now, yeah. So yeah, I think you're right about that. I think it's 1.4, which is devastating, which means we're not going to have a country left.
Exactly.
And now you have this massive decline in sperm count for men. And then of course we also know like young people aren't even, getting together anymore. Like they just can't afford to, they're just not. So this is devastating. This could be a catastrophe.
Well, at least there's the illegals.
Right.
And,
Well, that's
and all the
exactly.
other people coming and making lots of babies. The Americans aren't, but I don't know. It's crazy. It's really crazy, Clayton. What's going on?
It is the great replacement. People, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not. And you're seeing it across England and you're seeing it across the United States. It's not a conspiracy at all.
No, and I think the Muslims are having something like an average of 6 to 7 children. So wake up, people, wake up. Let's start taking care of our bodies. Let's start having more babies. So hopefully the people that are following Charlie Kirk and understanding that, they're going to have lots of babies. So, I have some hope.
Well, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because I want to offer solutions. I think people complain, well, hey, this is so bad, all these microplastics, what do we do about it? But one of the things we try to eat at a lot of meals is kimchi. And I know you've been such a big advocate of eating natural kimchi when you can. And these new studies show an unbelievable way to get microplastics out of our body by eating kimchi. Maybe you can go over the new PubMed articles here and like what they found.
Well, here's the thing. I want people to understand that avoiding or limiting the use of any kind of plastic is not going to be enough. Yes, you want to do that, but you've got to take active steps to remove the toxins from your body before they do irreversible damage. Now, the most toxic chemical that's in plastic is called BPA. And I got so excited, Clayton, because the National Library of Medicine, PubMed, published this, and it talked about the unique strain of bacteria found in kimchi, and it's called Bacillus pumilus. Now, this toxic, BPA, fetal abnormalities from it, all kinds of problems with it. And so this is very, very important. Again, it even found, as I mentioned before, erectile dysfunction, mental problems. But what's great is that there was another study in 2025 that showed 2 other lactobacillus strains that actually will pull into them the microplastics and then help excrete them out. And this was done in vivo, in living things. So one of the strains is called Bacillus parkasii. The other one is Bacillus plantarium. So these are found in kimchi, and this is incredible. So there are 3 different types of bacteria, good bacteria, that are found in kimchi that it is now proven to help to attract these microplastics and nanoplastics and actually bind with them and carry them out. So here's the key: to avoid toxicity, maintain optimal physical condition. This lies in your gut microbiome. And this is why it's so vitally important that you understand how important that little village is that's living in your gut is so important to every organ in your body, every area of your health, your heart, your brain, your skin, because the microbiome has communication lines everywhere in your body, and it affects every area of our health. And then there's another new study that came out too, Clayton, which shows lower triglycerides.
This is another piece of this too. So lower triglycerides, blood glucose, and blood pressure. So everyone, all these people go on statins and all of this other stuff. So I say, like, you have thousands of years of history of people eating fermented foods and knowing how to keep themselves healthy in a way. And then we have to rely on big pharma to do it. I don't buy it.
No, not at all. And here's the cool thing about this too, is that this study showed significant reductions in blood pressure. And that's both diastolic and systolic. And the triglycerides, those were lowered significantly. and the blood glucose, which meant that you had less of a chance to have cancer and also metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is, when you have that, that means you are now wide open to heart disease and to type 2 diabetes. So to take kimchi and have kimchi every day so you can actually get the microplastics out of your body and lower your rate for all of these different diseases. Heart disease is #1 killer. And a contributing factor of heart disease is obesity. And here's another thing that came out, that kimchi has been proven to lower our body fat by 31.8%.
This was a big issue for me because I had gotten one of those DEXA scans about a year and a half ago. And my visceral fat, not the fat you can really see, but the stuff that's around my organs, was a little too high. And I thought, how am I going to combat this? Obviously staying in zone 2 for working out, but also reducing this weight, getting rid of this off of my body using food. And so one of the things I started to do was started to eat kimchi. And guess what? Went back, got my DEXA scan, and had fixed that, had removed that visceral fat from those markers, because I was concerned. My dad had heart disease, and I was really worried that, extra fat around the heart or wherever was going to cause a problem for me later in life. So was able to, with my diet and exercise, but kimchi being a big piece of this, and eating fermented foods. So I just want to say I agree with this.
That is so great to hear, because people don't understand how dangerous visceral fat is. It's so much more dangerous than just regular fat. And so it surrounds the organs, and it literally makes them so they're inoperable at some point. So we've got to get rid of that visceral fat, and kimchi does it. And it's been tested over and over again. It's been around for centuries. There's so many health benefits. And this is one of the reasons, or the many reasons, why we want people to consume it daily. And we want to make it easy. And that's why we created Kimchi One. And a lot of things, I know, Clayton, you like kimchi, regular kimchi, but so many Americans, it's so different for their taste buds. It's so different for they can't stand this smell. So we wanted to put it in a convenient capsule. So you use it for daily use, because you need to have this daily, okay? This is very important in order to get these things out of your body. You're breathing in the microplastics daily. You're eating foods that have microplastics. You're consuming things that are causing the visceral fat. So eating kimchi every single day, this is the easy way to do it. Plus, if you're on low sodium diet, you can't eat regular kimchi because it's high in sodium. So we lowered the sodium it's hardly anything in the capsules. And it's 100% made in the USA. It's all natural, non-GMO. And we've just had so many success stories with Kimchi One, Clayton, especially people losing weight. Their digestion has changed. Their regularity has changed. People that thought it was normal to go to the bathroom two times a week, they're now going every day, because people think these things are normal. They're not normal, and they're causing more toxicity in the body. So their regularity improved, their digestion ability improved. 70-80% of our immune system's in our gut. So people that were constantly sick or constantly having respiratory problems, they were just amazed to see that those things actually improved with just including kimchi every day. And people who have had diabetes, they haven't been able to control their blood sugar levels. They start taking Kimchi One every day, and guess what? Go back to the doctor, whole different story. And again, people with high blood pressure who couldn't find a way to get off their statins, go back to the doctor. That seems to be solved now.
It's amazing. I have a family member with type 2 diabetes, and she's been working on this and taking this. So now this is like totally changing her health markers, which is amazing. So I will sing it from the hills. My mom takes it. My mother-in-law takes it. My entire family takes it. The other night at dinner, we were having actual fermented kimchi in with our dinner, with our steak. And I think my littlest one, she's like, I don't like the taste of this, And so it's a perfect example, right, of someone who, maybe could take a capsule instead of trying to but she's also 10 years old, so maybe the taste.
Mix it in with your peanut butter and jelly.
Right. Kimchi and peanut butter and jelly. So I'll put this up here on the screen because you guys have been so great, and I'm a huge supporter of Kimchi One and what you guys do. Again, it's been transformative in my family. So if you guys want to get 25% off, we'll put this up on the screen. Just scan that QR code on the screen. We'll have it linked up below as well. You can get 25% off. But you guys also do something which is great, which I love, is that you want to actually talk to people on the phone, and then you give them like 50% off, right?
Yes, because, I've educated people for almost 50 years now on their health. So I enjoy when people call in. I feel much better because their questions can be answered. They can make sure that this is right for themselves. They can feel very confident. We have money back guarantee. But when you call in, you get those questions answered. That's why we give the incentive for 50% off plus free shipping when you call 888-404-6312. And again, that's 888-404-6312. And we also give the first 100 callers a free bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2. And that is one of the most important 2 vitamins that you can have. K2 helping with that calcium in your blood, putting it in the right place in your bones and your teeth. And the vitamin D3 helping your bones and just your overall immunity and everything else. So very, very important. So call us at 888-404-6312 and get all those wonderful free things and talk to a really nice, educated person.
Yeah, we had Dr. Pierre Corey on the show this week talking about vitamin D3, and he said the new research is coming out about how important vitamin D3 is, not D2, but D3.
No, D3.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So anyway, we'll have all of this linked up in the description below. So there's some solutions for you. All these microplastics in our body, eating kimchi. And then if you don't like the fermented, you don't like that taste of it with every meal, you can take Kimchi One, as part of your routine every day. Just put it in your little supplements container like I do, right next to my D3, right next to my B12. I can't keep track of all of them, but I've got a bunch of them there. Kim, great to see you as always. Thank you so much.
Great to see you as well, and stay well and be blessed and have a lovely day.
God bless.
Thank you.